What is going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you all have had a great Thursday. Hope you're having a great week so far. Hopefully, for most, this is the last day. Maybe some of you had to work today. Maybe y'all have had the whole entire week off. Maybe y'all do have to work tomorrow. But regardless, thankfully, we are wrapping up this week and we're wrapping up the year tomorrow. And it looks like we're going to have some active weather continuing tomorrow and then going into the first couple of days of the new year. Guys, there's a lot to talk about. And I know that there's certain parts of the weather people really want to know more about, whether it be snow or severe weather, but we're going to break it all down in this video. We're going to talk about the snow and wintry part of this on the second half of the video and really break down the severe weather on the first half because I think both warrant some attention here. Also, quick note, there is some wildfires breaking out just outside of the Denver suburbs and the cities outside of Denver. So these are some rapidly spreading wildfires out in that area. So thoughts and prayers go out to anybody affected by that. I'm watching it on my Twitter feed and it's just wild how fast these wildfires are spreading. They're in a severe drought out there and these wildfires are literally just burning down neighborhoods in just flat out minutes. So thoughts and prayers go out for you guys and anybody affected by that. That's awful news. So definitely keeping you on my prayers tonight before I go to bed here. And if anybody else has anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. Sometimes I forget to say that, and I never should forget to say that. But y'all got anything that I can pray about, anything that anybody else in the comments can pray about, put it in the comments below. There's people who would love to pray for you, and I would love to pray for you also. If you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button for me. Like the video. Helps to get the video out there so more people can know about this big-time system that could really pack a punch. It might produce much more significant severe weather than what we've seen the last couple of days. And then maybe a surprise snow for the same areas that might see severe weather 24 hours prior. Pretty dynamic system. So let's dive deep into this. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I've had a lot of growth over the last several days and just this week, and it's been really cool. You know, there for a while I didn't even think I was going to get over 9,000 subscribers. The original goal was 10K, but for the end of the year, going to need a drastic miracle for that, but that's okay. The growth has been awesome, and I appreciate y'all just supporting a guy who's passionate about something and giving me an audience to talk about what I love, which is the weather and helping others out. So thank y'all for that. So let's get going here. We'll start off from the basics. The Storm Prediction Center, the professionals, they still have this slight risk out stretching from areas of far eastern Oklahoma going through, cutting through about almost 50% of Arkansas. This includes areas like Little Rock, Memphis, Jackson, Nashville, and then a slither of southwest Kentucky. And then you got the marginal risk around this. Guys, I think the coverage of these storms are not going to be as widespread, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But there's still a threat for tornadoes tomorrow. And, so if you're in Jackson, Memphis, Little Rock, be careful tomorrow for your New Year's Eve and planning any outdoor activities or anything like that. So just be weather aware. Not everybody might not even see a storm tomorrow, but it could get active. As far as the day 3, it has not changed, but I'm going to make an updated video first thing in the morning, and I really think this might get updated to something, but it's still at a slight risk for a pretty broad area. But I think maybe somewhere might upgrade to an enhanced risk tomorrow. We're still not deep into the short-range models for day 3, which is New Year's Day, and I think this will be the much more significant severe weather system. I think that it could potentially be a tornado outbreak for some. Will this be more linear, meaning will this be really just a line of storms that have tornadoes embedded in them? We're not quite sure, and I wish we knew, but we need to get inside the HRRR model a little bit more, and that's a model I like to really look at. But this is a big-time trough injection, and Arctic air is making this a moving severe weather system, unlike the one over the last 2 days, where you didn't have a real big trough pushing in. It was just a more of a flat piece of energy and not really a big-time trough injection, but severe weather is possible from Shreveport all the way into the southern Appalachian Mountains into Kentucky, including Atlanta and all the cities you see in this yellow area, in this area down here. So be weather aware for sure. And what we got going on is what we've been talking about for days on end, it feels like. Feels like we've been talking about the storm forever. This is 500 millibar. This is well over 10,000 feet up in the air. The wind streams, what kind of jet at the 500 millibar area do we have? Well, here it comes, picks up this surface trough out of Baja California that you're seeing right in here. The flow gets going here, and this is the latest updated information from actually the 18Z European. So not the 12Z, but the 18Z, which we are in range now. It goes out to 90 hours. Picks it up here, and then you have this positively tilted trough that moves through and digs here. Severe weather threat ongoing with a look like this into the mid-south especially. This might be more of a mid-south instead of deep south event, and I really think a squall line moves into the Georgia, into the Carolinas as we get into late Sunday, maybe into overnight Sunday into Monday. And then right behind it, cold air sweeps through. A secondary low might pop off right in here, and then snow on the backside. I'm even talking about areas of maybe northern Alabama and Mississippi, and definitely maybe the entire state of Tennessee. At least see some flurries as it really pops off some energy, maybe as far west as Arkansas moves through. We're going to talk about all that here in this video. Longer video as usual. They've all been like this the last couple weeks. I mean, the last few days. So as far as this 850 jet, we know that this is going to pop off a big time expansive, broad, low level jet. But here it is around Arkansas tomorrow with a tornado threat. Any kind of storms that develop around this 30 to 40 knot jet here in Arkansas and maybe southern areas of Missouri. And then all the other states that I mentioned prior, like Oklahoma into Kentucky, right into this area, they could have a spin to them. But then we get into a New Year's Day and a more expansive low-level jet gets fired up. And this is around the afternoon hour Saturday. And you got a 40 to 50, maybe 60 knot jet just south of this surface low that's starting to work its way through the Ohio Valley. And this is where I really think areas like Tennessee could have a tornado threat one day, and then the next day it could be snowing. That's why we're using the word dynamic with this storm system, because it is a dynamic. You got so many elements. It's a beast of a storm. It's a changing of air masses, and as the air masses are changing, you're having a big time severe weather threat with it, which happens a lot when you have such changing of air masses. This low level jet will move over the Carolinas. It kind of gets flattened out. But a line of storms is likely even for the Carolinas. So what we can look at in general, we can look at the system precipitation-wise off the GFS, and we'll look at it really quick, and then we'll go back over certain elements of what we're checking out here. And one thing here comes our system. Here comes our Arctic air mass. You got an Arctic high building in, pumping in extremely cold air into the upper Midwest and even Midwest. And this front's digging down, and here comes this surface trough that originally ejects out of Baja California, moves through the south central U.S., the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley. It's moving on through. Of course, as the GFS is not going to show individual storm structures or anything like that, but this moves through, promotes this precipitation right here is likely going to be in the form of storms and just heavy rain, which is another thing that I'm not going to be able to touch on as much in this video, or this video might go on for 45 minutes. But the heavy rain threat, flooding threat is real in certain areas. It's already been real today. There's been some flash flooding, nothing, substantial or life-threatening. But, for example, Atlanta had a flash flood warning this morning. But here comes this Arctic air. You see these blue lines. That is the cold air moving in. And then here comes the secondary low. It even shows it up on the GFS. Pops up, you see it pop up in Georgia into the Carolinas. When this happens, it pumps out more precipitation to the west, and then where all the severe weather is, you have a band of light to moderate snow that pops off here. Cold air catches up with this precipitation, maybe snow as far south as areas of Alabama, Mississippi, and then heavier precipitation into the southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky. And what's the most interesting part of the system to me is as the storm really pops off and deepens here, the secondary low, it almost tries to become like a nor'easter or something. And it backfires this extremely heavy precipitation into the Delamar area in Virginia, coastal areas of Virginia. Washington, D.C. gets awfully close. And then Monday morning, potentially, I'm going to use that word a lot with the snow. You're going to have a heavier band of snow that pops off here. Even watch areas like Elizabeth City. I think I said that town right. I should know that. But areas of northeast North Carolina, basically, watch out. There might be a brief area of some heavier snow Monday morning as the cold air is working in with this heavier precipitation still in place here. And then it moves on off. And even watch out for cities with New York City and Boston. Maybe this ticks a little bit north. And if you look at the trends here, it's a tough system to figure out. It really is. We're gonna check out the dynamics of this system also. Look at the European, same kind of deal. And then I'm also not mentioning the snow. You back it up here. Look at the snowstorm for Boston. We're gonna get detailed on that for you guys too. And then the snow for Boston here on the European model. And then even the European has finally came along with the idea of a band of precipitation in the form of snow, maybe as far west as Memphis and Nashville. As we're getting into the afternoon, evening hours, Sunday, overnight, snow breaks out into the Appalachians. But it doesn't really like the idea of this big-time band of heavy snow for the same area right here on the eastern coast as the GFS does. But as far as the vorticity, you can tell how this really comes together here. Here comes this positively tilted trough. And then right here, you see how it bubbles up and goes neutral and negatively tilted? It's starting to consolidate together, right? When you see that, that's when you have a deepening low pressure. And if you look at the runs prior to that, it looks kind of dragged out, if you will, kind of strung out. Well, when you're strung out like that, that normally means that you don't have a strengthening or coming together system. But if you go into the present run, see how it's kind of digging here and almost curling up like a shrimp. That tells us that it's really a system that's starting to wrap the northern stream with the southern stream a little bit better, and you have a strengthening storm system here. As far as the NAM, let's talk about the severe weather threat, because the NAM is in range for the severe weather threat. Now we're getting into tomorrow morning. Watch this area right here, which is the area that could potentially have the severe weather earlier on. You're saying, where's the storms, man? I don't see what you're talking about. Well, it's a good question. I don't think the storm coverage is going to be as widespread tomorrow, but I do think any storms that fire up in this area right in here tomorrow could have some severity to it. And I think that's why the slight risk is at place. But I don't think the risk of severe storms are going to go up tomorrow. If anything, it might downtrend. But I really think they're putting that slight risk there is because there's going to be a low-level jet popping up as this trough begins to dig here. But as we get into Saturday morning, here comes that surface trough, a surface low firing up in here along the jet. Don't let me get my words mixed up. Along the basically the jet stream here and the trough injection, as this surface low is popping up here, you see the winter precipitation up in areas of northern Missouri as that winter storm gets cranking up, which we'll talk about here in a second. Here comes that low pressure riding through Missouri and starting to get into the southern areas of the Ohio Valley. And then as we're getting into Saturday afternoon, here comes the storms we have to worry about. But notice you don't see anything super discrete. And I think that's the question mark even from the Storm Prediction Center. They're not sure if the tornado threat is really going to really get going here. If you look at the NAM, it really shows just a line of storms associated with the Arctic blast. But you watch any storms that develop, out in front of this main line of storms. That's what I wonder here. And I really think it won't take much, even along this line of storms, for these storms to really spin, be some embedded tornadoes in this squall line. But if you're looking at the latest NAM 3KM, which only goes out to 60 hours, it would tell us that, hey, this is going to be more so a line of a linear type squall line kind of setup. But we don't know that for sure. We look at the latest long-range HRRR model. Let's see if the OOZ is coming out now, but it's only 1 hour in. So the only thing we can really look at is the one from 6 hours ago, which goes 48 hours out. But same thing, same situation. Tomorrow we wake up, getting to tomorrow afternoon. Shows a lot of kind of rainy coverage, but you're not seeing any big-time storms erupting here. But the HRRR model has more moisture than the NAM does in this area. So you watch out for these little storms. And southeast Oklahoma, and then getting into Arkansas, Little Rock. Watch out for these storms. These storms could have some spin to them. And then we're getting into New Year's Day morning, first day of 2022. And here it comes. Here comes this line of storms, but it only goes 48 hours out. So we don't know what happens here later in the afternoon, evening here in Tennessee. But here comes that low pressure right here. Plenty of moist air right in here, but so far I'm very interested to see what happens as we wake up in the morning. I think the morning update will be huge, and we'll get inside. We'll know more about the snow. We'll know more about the severe weather. But right now, this looks more into a congealed line of storms. But that doesn't necessarily mean the severe weather threat as far as tornadoes is completely gone. If you focus here on the HRRR model, what we worry about tomorrow here is this area of this low-level jet that's about 50 to 60 knots getting into areas of Oklahoma, getting into Arkansas, and even getting into southern areas of Missouri. That's why there's a severe weather threat here. And then as we're getting into tomorrow, I keep wanting to say tomorrow, into New Year's Day, this is when the more broad, deeper low-level jet comes in place, and you have much stronger winds just above the surface and much more directional shear. And that's why even along this line of storms that's beginning to develop, you have plenty of shear, plenty of spin in the atmosphere. So I honestly think as of right now, Tennessee might be the biggest threat for severe weather. And as far as Mid-South, they might be the biggest threat for snow too. So wild system, really is. Really is. And we'll know a lot more about the severe weather threat tomorrow. But as far as Cape, this is the significant tornado parameter. Not very high tomorrow. It really isn't. In fact, in that slight risk, it spikes to about 1, maybe 2. But then as we're getting into Saturday morning and then early Saturday afternoon, along this line of storms, it gets to about the 2 to maybe 3 range. And that's why I'm worried about embedded into this line of storms, there's going to be tornadoes, which is dangerous because you don't really see them. A lot of times they're embedded in rain, and it's a lot more dangerous for sure. As far as Cape, you're going to have Cape both days above 1,000 joules per kilogram, maxing out in this moist sector right here. There's going to be enough Cape to deal with, and then it gets washed out by the Arctic front. Dew points are there. We've been talking about that. I feel like we've reiterated that 100 times, but there's going to be a moist sector that spikes just ahead of this Arctic air mass. Dry air moves in, kind of knocks down the southeast ridge, and all this moist air just flowing in from this ridge of high, basically this southeast ridge off the coast of the southeast. And then, so here it comes. There comes our pattern change here. So I can tell you, stick with me in the morning. We're going to know a lot more about the severe weather threat, especially for New Year's Day, which I think is going to be the biggest threat. But let's talk about for you guys up in the Midwest and Chicago and places. Let's look at the latest NAM. What is the NAM showing for you guys? Here it comes. As we're getting into overnight, New Year's Eve night into New Year's Day morning. Here it comes. As early as around midday in Chicago, you should start to see some wintry precipitation. You guys can see just a wintry mess in areas of Missouri, and then central to northern areas of Illinois. I hadn't even seen what kind of winter storm watches are in. Here we go. Let's see, watches. You guys. Yeah, so y'all have a pretty expansive area of a winter storm watch in place right here, stretching all the way from areas of Kansas all the way through central and northern Missouri, all the way through areas of Illinois and Iowa. So, and it matches the HRRR very well here as we're looking here. Let's get back to this. Yeah, right here. So here it comes, 22Z Saturday. This is, around the afternoon hours, New Year's Day. Here comes the heavier snow, and I think areas of Chicago could be more of a jackpot. And I think a lot of the heaviest snow is going to fall right at the beginning of the storm. I really don't think this is going to be a very long duration storm. I think the snow is going to fall pretty quickly, especially the first half of the system. There's going to be a lot of heavy precipitation with this, and I really think Chicago is a jackpot area because they are going to be just north enough where y'all are going to avoid the warm air advection enough to where y'all stay really heavy, wet snow. So I think y'all could get over half a foot of snow, definitely, and then you get some lingering snow showers all the way into January 2nd, that will probably last all the way through the first half of the day. As far as how much snow the NAM is showing for you guys, let's look at how much snow. This is a 10-to-1 ratio, so it's not always accurate, but it does depict a lot of snow for southern Iowa. A lot of this accumulation you're seeing in areas of Missouri is not snow. A lot of it's sleet, so you can cut a lot of them totals in half. But the areas around Chicago, points north and northern Illinois, that's definitely snow, and it's showing 6-7 inches around Chicago. As far as the GFS, what's the GFS show for you guys in Chicago? And for anybody who's watching for the southern areas, I'm going to talk about that southern storm here in a second too. Chicago seeing a big time storm too. So here we go with this. There goes the GFS as far as snowfall totals for the GFS. About the same thing as the NAM, 6-7 inches around Chicago. So it's definitely there. You look at the latest European, this is the latest 18Z European, here comes a snowstorm. So I think it's pretty much zeroed in on snow, pretty decently substantial snowfall for areas like Chicago and surrounding areas. It really is. It took a while for the models to really dive in with the idea, but they finally came together where it's going to be cold enough for all snow. Now, I don't know what y'all consider a substantial snowstorm in Chicago, but it'll be the biggest one of this winter, I can tell you that. So, all right. So let's talk about my people in the South, because that's where I'm located too. And I know people are starting to hear they've heard severe weather's coming for days now, but now the S word, other S word, starting to get slung around here, and that is snow for the South. So here we go. This is the latest 18Z, and we showed this in here in a second. This is getting into Sunday afternoon. What's going on here, like we mentioned in the beginning of the video, another low pressure that has nothing to do with the first one that flies over the Ohio Valley that promotes a severe weather threat. Another one pops up here as cold air is ushering in. What happens here is that it's able to expand the precipitation more west, and then it creates an area of snow for Tennessee, Kentucky, maybe northern areas of Alabama and Mississippi. As this moves through, this low pressure deepens over the Carolinas and portions of Virginia, brings, I think, a period of pretty heavy snow overnight. Saturday into Sunday. I think this snow is it could fall all the way as far south as the mountains of Georgia, Asheville. I don't think this is just predominantly a northwest flow event, which Asheville doesn't see a lot. This is actually a low pressure exploding here, and an actual snowstorm. It'll be a quick hitting one. Now, the GFS is definitely the most aggressive with this, because what happens here is the cold air catches up. It really explodes this low pressure off the coast of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and it's able to turn this extremely heavy precipitation to heavy snow in the Delamar area and areas of Virginia. This would promote a significant quick-hitting winter storm for these areas. It really would, and I think it would catch some people off by surprise, because it's not being talked about a lot, and it's inside 100 hours. The European's not quite aggressive, but I can tell you one thing, the European and the GFS are excited about at least the idea for at least flurries in the Mid-South, Tennessee, maybe northern, maybe as far west as Memphis, maybe areas of northern Mississippi and Alabama, and the plateau of Tennessee, and then, around Knoxville, northwest flow event could kick in there. But as far as a big old coastal low popping off here and dumping a ton of snow on the Delamar area, Washington, D.C., the European is not having it, I tell you that. But as far as snowfall accumulation off the GFS, now this is 10-to-1 ratio, and that is not going to be the case, especially in the southern areas. It's been way too warm here. The ground's warm. The snow's not going to be falling at a cold enough temperature. So even though it shows 1 to 2 inches across areas of Tennessee, I think you can cut them totals at least in half. But I really think areas potentially around Nashville, definitely the plateau of Tennessee, could certainly see maybe a dusting, maybe a half an inch, and who knows, maybe more. But I really think the northwest slopes of the mountains of Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina could potentially see a decent snow from this. This will help ski country out there for sure. But the biggest question mark of this out of all, because I really think Tennessee and the areas in the Mid-South is going to at least see some flurries flying around and some light snow for sure. The biggest question of this is, do you get some kind of big-time low pressure that pops off here and delivers a quick-hitting snowstorm for areas of the Mid-Atlantic? That is a big question to me. But as far as the GFS ensembles, it lights the idea of snow. At least a touch of snow in these areas, but it's definitely not as aggressive is the operational run. I can tell you that. So if you look at the latest NAM, this is the 12 km NAM, which goes out 84 hours. It shows the beginning of this snow setting up, but it has snow as far west as Oklahoma, and then Arkansas getting a nice light to moderate snow event, and then snow getting into Memphis, North Mississippi, heck, even shows flurries almost as far south as northern Louisiana, and then showing a low pressure popping off quicker with this cold air, and then already snowing in Tennessee and areas of Nashville, southern Kentucky, getting into West Virginia as early as over as the wee hours of the morning, Monday morning, as you're starting out your work week. So 25-minute video, a lot to discuss. Honestly, I'll be happy when we can just discuss the snow event, because discussing all this in one video is very hard. I know most people do not make it through the entire video, but gotta stay consistent. So I appreciate y'all tuning me in and people who do listen all the way through. And thank y'all for everything. Y'all stay safe. I'm going to keep y'all updated here in the next 48 hours. I'm still thinking about chasing, and I'll know something about that for sure tomorrow. But God bless everybody. Y'all stay safe tonight.